"Why do I feel safe with you?" she asked. Marcus's gaze didn't waver. "Because I'll stand here when it costs—" The glass shattered behind them. The penthouse suite on the Upper East Side felt less like a home and more like a mausoleum dressed in money. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the glitter of Manhattan's winter skyline, but none of that light reached the center of Vanessa Drake's chest. She perched at the edge of an Italian leather sofa, black silk robe clinging to her curves, long blonde hair spilling over one shoulder like a banner of wealth she hadn't asked to carry. 30 years old, thick and undeniable, she had the kind of beauty that made strangers second-guess their assumptions. Porcelain skin, smoky liner, mouth softened by worry. A cream envelope lay in her lap like a detonator. No return address, 7 words. Your father can't protect you forever. Her fingers trembled. The whistleblowing had detonated 6 months ago, ripping the gilt veneer off Henry Drake's empire and dragging her into a spotlight she'd never wanted. Threats had trickled in, snide emails, envelopes slid under the door, comments muttered near the elevators. This one felt different. It named her. It tasted like a line being crossed. 3 soft knocks tapped the terrace glass. She flinched, heart skittering. A man stood in the moonwash beyond the pane, a night-cut silhouette who filled the horizon as though he'd been built to intercept storms. He lifted a hand once, a question more than a demand. She rose and slid the door open. January air rushed in around him, metal cold. He stepped inside with the economy of someone who measured rooms faster than clocks. Black tactical tee pulled across a chest engineered for impact, black cargo pants, gloves looped at his belt. Deep brown skin caught the silver of the skyline. Close-cropped hair, clean jaw, eyes like quiet iron. "Miss Drake," he said. A warm gravel that landed like ballast. "We secure the perimeter first, then the interior, then we talk." Vanessa swallowed. "Do you always sound so certain when someone might be in danger?" He scanned the room. Angles, reflections, the lick of light off chrome. "Only when I know I can handle it." Something clicked in her nervous system, like a breaker flipping. He crossed to the keypad by the terrace door and entered a code she hadn't known existed. Deadbolts thudded. He moved through the living room, down the hallway, into the kitchen and back, his path a precise geometry of sightlines and blind corners. He didn't touch anything he didn't need to, he didn't fill the space with talk. Calm radiated from him like heat from stone that had held the sun all day. "Marcus Kane," he said at last, returning to the sofa where she stood clutching the letter. "I'll be your security lead until the threat vector collapses." "Threat vector?" she echoed, because language was a handhold. "You can call it harassment." "I could," he said, "but harassment is what people say when they want to be believed without acting. Vectors move. We move faster." His gaze dipped to the paper. "May I?" She nodded. He didn't come close enough to crowd her. He waited until she extended the envelope, then took it without brush of skin. He read the line, turned the paper under the lamp, lifted it to the window's reflected black. Printed on a consumer laser, clean trim, no fingerprints likely, adhesive is neat. He looked up. "It's not amateur, it's practiced." "I thought my father's team handled all this." "The company hired you?" "Your father asked my firm to take over your personal detail." A beat. "I accepted." "Why?" The word slipped out before pride could catch it. He considered her the way you consider a ledge before you jump. "Because loose ends are how people get hurt. You are a loose end to the men your father exposed. They will test the perimeter." He handed back the letter. "We'll make the tests expensive." She almost laughed. "Too sharp to be pretty." "You talk like a chess manual." "The board moves, but the principles don't." He gestured towards the spiral stairs. "There's a secure level below. We'll sweep, then I'll brief you." Her legs felt like they remembered stairs from a past life. She nodded and followed, robe whispering her ankles. He took the stairs like the staircase was information. Halfway down, she asked the question that had lodged against her rib since he arrived. "Do you always look this calm?" "Calm is a decision I make before I knock." The lower level opened into steel and order. A steel-reinforced door with a retinal scanner, a narrow hallway humming with vented breath, the panic room like a heart built of circuits, monitors beaded with feeds from angles she'd never known existed, roof corners, stairwell landings, the blind wedge beside the freight elevator. On a work table, a flashlight, a stack of laminated cards, a small black notebook. She noticed her name printed on the top card, Vanessa, in block letters. He keyed the scanner. The room bloomed to life. "Sit," he said, not unkindly. She sat, because some voices make obedience feel like oxygen. 1. We vary your routes in and out. 2. You won't post your location. 3. You'll learn a breathe sequence so your body trusts your brain when adrenaline lies. "My body is persuasive," she said, aiming for wit, hitting truth. "That's why we practice when we're not scared." He slid one of the laminated cards across the table. 4-count inhale, hold 4, 6-count exhale. You'll memorize it. Her throat tightened. "You made these?" "I make things I hope my clients never need, but if they need them, I want them ready." He set the notebook beside it. "Log anything that feels off. A face you see twice, a vehicle parked where it shouldn't be, the way a doorman avoids your eyes. We build patterns. Patterns give us map and warning. And if I freeze, I'm very polished until I'm very not. If you freeze, I will unfreeze you. That's my job." He met her eyes, steady and unadorned. "Ask questions. I'll answer. You don't need to perform courage. You just need to cooperate." Something inside her, small and stunted by years of optics, stood up. "Okay," she said. "I can do that." He nodded once, approval without condescension. "Good. We start now." They moved through the rooms together, the tour of her life as seen by a threat. He noted the reflective glass by the hallway that turned night into a two-way mirror. He adjusted a lamp so it wouldn't silhouette her against the window when she crossed to the kitchen. He showed her the dead zone behind a pillar where cameras went blind for 1.5 feet, the exact kind of space someone might choose to wait. People think safety is walls, Marcus. Safety is awareness and willingness. Willingness? To stand between. He said, simply. She heard the words and felt the meaning, felt it like a coat she'd never been allowed to wear. When he finished, he stood at the terrace glass again, a sentry appointed by her own new wish to keep him where she could see him. "Vanessa," he said without looking back, testing how her name worked in his mouth. "You will sleep tonight." She almost told him she hadn't, not really, for months. Instead, "Why do I feel safer now than I did an hour ago?" He turned. The ghost of a smile lived at the corner of his mouth. "Because fear likes unsolved equations. I solve them." He gestured towards the stairs. "Go up. Lock your door. If you need me, call my name." She laughed, a single breath. "You'll hear it?" "Always," Marcus said, and took the first watch. Outside, the city kept its glittering vigil, while the apartment learned his rhythm. For once, Vanessa let the night stand guard with him. There. Morning came filtered through gray cloud, a washed silver that dulled the sharp edges of the city. Vanessa woke with the sensation of having been carried across a river. No dreams, just a steadying current. Her phone showed missed calls, PR texts, 3 messages from her father that all began with optics and ended with instructions. She ignored them long enough to breathe 4 in, hold 4, 6 out, the rhythm already living under her ribs like a metronome someone had wound overnight.
Marcus was in the hallway outside her door when she opened it, a tall shadow with a paper cup in hand. "Tea," he said, offering it without stepping past the frame. "Chamomile, honey. You grind your thumb into your wrist when you're overclocked. Chamomile helps." She took the cup, surprised by how grateful her fingers felt. "Do you notice everything?" "Only what matters." His gaze flicked down the hall, then back. "We're doing an early sweep. Service elevator, loading bay, street. Coat, flats, no jewelry." She pulled her thick hair into a low knot, traded silk for denim and a warm camel coat, and followed him to the service lift with the superintendent, a fatherly man with tired eyes and a keyring that sounded like a small wind chime. In the lobby, a housekeeper's teenage son stumbled and dropped a grocery sack. Apples rolled in bright red arcs. Marcus was there in a breath, one hand steadying the kid, the other scooping fruit, with a gentleness at odds with his black steel silhouette. "You okay?" he asked in Spanish. The boy nodded, recovering his balance with a shy grin. The mother thanked him, relief softening the taut line of her mouth. Vanessa watched the way people breathed easier around Marcus, like his calm was a weather system they could step into. The thought startled her. I feel easier too. Outside, the air tasted clean and sharp. Threats like long lines of sight, windows, parked vans, alley mouths. We walk where we can't be pinned and where we can see. He nodded toward the glinting flank of a glass office tower. Reflections are windows you can control. You make it sound like chess. It is, he said. Only the board moves. They stopped at a cafe with a just lit open sign. Marcus checked the back exit with a glance that took everything in, then held the door for an elderly couple whose gratitude pulled a half smile to the corner of his mouth. He ordered for both of them without looking up at the menu. When they sat, backs to the wall, view of the room, he slid sugar packets toward her without comment, the way you do when you've already watched someone's tells. You didn't flinch last night, he said after a beat, voice low. You breathed. Most people in your position wait for someone to save them. You do the work. She didn't say, I've been taught to wear composure like a second skin. She said, most people in your line of work bark orders. Barking is a panic pretending to be a plan. His mouth almost curved. Plans are quieter. Why do I feel safer here than behind an inch of glass? Because safety isn't walls. It's a person willing to stand between. The echo of last night's line landed again, deeper. He didn't look at her when he said it this time. He watched the room. Somehow that made it truer. Back upstairs, afternoon flattened into a gray wash. The penthouse lights felt staged. Vanessa paced between the windows and the kitchen island, while Marcus completed a last pass along the terrace. The thud hit the glass like a coin flicked from the sky. Not loud, not dramatic, small, metallic, deliberate. Marcus was inside before the echo died. Interior, he said, voice even, already guiding her by the elbow, not possessive, just certain, toward the service corridor. He keyed a code she hadn't seen yet. Deadbolts thudded. The hallway narrowed them to a ribbon of space, steel on one side, reinforced storage on the other, vents breathing like the apartment had a calm of its own. What was that? Vanessa asked, impressed that her voice came out steady enough to fool everyone but him. Likely a small drone testing the reaction window. His eyes flicked to the ceiling camera, then to his wrist mic. He gave clipped instructions to building security in a tone that carried confidence instead of fear. Then he faced her fully. Look at me. In through the nose, 4 counts. Hold, 4, 6 out. Feet flat. We're fine. You're safe because I'm here and because you're doing what I ask. She matched his breath. The flutter in her chest eased. The corridor widened by an inch. She realized he was pacing the exhale with her, his own chest a quiet metronome. Do you ever get scared? She asked, the question escaping like steam from a sealed pot. All good operators do, he said, mouth tipping almost into a smile. Fear tells you what to expect. Training tells you what to do next. I've had a lot of training. You noticed my tell last night. She pressed her thumb into her wrist and then let it go. What's yours? He considered. I count exits. When I stop counting, something's wrong. They stood there, 2 beats of the same clock. The calm in his eyes wasn't performance. It was a practiced refuge. Something in her loosened around that realization, like a fist unclenching. A chime crackled in his earpiece. Perimeter clear, drone retreated, he relayed, then didn't move for a breath longer than necessary. He watched her steady herself and let the room grow big again before he keyed the locks. Back to normal, he said, though both of them knew normal had changed its definition. That evening, the building felt like a stage after the audience leaves. Too quiet, too bright, every sound suddenly intimate. Vanessa brewed tea and carried 2 mugs to the kitchen island. Marcus accepted his without touch. Their fingers didn't meet, and somehow that absence said more than contact would have. "About today," she began, aiming for breezy, landing on brittle. "Congratulations, you've upgraded my nervous system." "You upgraded it. I just gave it a sequence." He took a sip, then set the mug down. "There's pressure coming. Headlines, meetings about optics. People will suggest distance between your life and the person who keeps you alive." "You sound like you've done this before." "I have." She lifted her phone. 2 new messages already. PR, father. Distance, distance. She set the phone face down. "They want it. Distance." "Understood." And the word landed like a door closing. She stared at him, something reckless and fragile burning behind her ribs. "Is that all you have to say?" "My job is your safety," he said, posture easing a half-inch as if refusing to armor himself against her. "That includes the kind you can't see. Rumors, pressure, the narratives other people prefer. If distance is what you need to feel secure, I'll build it." "I didn't say need, I said they want." He held her gaze. "Then tell me what you want." The truth rose like a tide, and she didn't stop it. "I don't know," she said, honest and raw. "I'm trying not to know." He inclined his head, a promise without touch. "Then we go slow. We keep the work clean. When fear shows up, we do the sequence. You are in charge of the story you tell yourself, not the one a memo sells you." For the first time all day, her lungs loosened. "Okay," she said, slow. He reclaimed his post by the door. The distance returned, only now it felt chosen, not imposed. Outside, sirens stitched the distance. Inside, their quiet agreement held like stitched seamwork, flexible, strong, invisible to anyone not looking. Tomorrow would test it, but tonight, steadiness had a name: breath.
By morning, the photo was everywhere. Vanessa on her terrace, chin lifted into the wind, and 10 feet behind her, the distance PR would later insist had been present all along, Marcus's shadow carved like a second skyline. The caption did its work. "Heiress hides behind hired muscle." She didn't click the comments. You didn't have to drink the ocean to know it was salt. Drake International's conference room looked like an apology to power. Glass walls, steel table, a skyline for a witness. Madeline Shaw from PR had a tablet and a smile that knew how to hold the line. "Separate entrances," she said. "Separate elevators. No images within 10 feet. Mr. Kane remains out of frame." She didn't look at Marcus when she said it, as if eye contact might concede personhood. "The bodyguard keeps me alive," Vanessa said, dry as bone. "He can do that from outside the shot," Madeline replied, eyes already shifting to the next deliverable. "We're managing a narrative." Marcus stood behind Vanessa's chair in a charcoal suit that couldn't blunt his presence. He absorbed the room the way he absorbed a hallway. Exits, glass reflections, the way the HVAC vent hummed a fraction louder near the door. He didn't speak. His quiet made people tell on themselves. The elevator doors closed on the meeting's polite brutality. Vanessa watched their reflections blur as the car descended, 2 outlines aligning and separating with each passing floor. "They talk like you're a prop," she said. "They talk like I'm a variable they can't control. They're not wrong." "Are you okay with that?" "I wasn't hired to be liked. I was hired to be effective, but I won't be the reason you lose ground in your world." She stared at the elevator numbers blooming and disappearing. "What if I don't want that world without feeling safe in it?" He didn't answer quickly. When he did, it was simple. "Then we build a version that doesn't demand you choose." The Winter Gala at the Modern Arts Museum arrived like a test, packaged as philanthropy.
Vanessa wore midnight blue that skimmed her curves without apology, a dove-gray shawl softening the angles PR said made her look too severe. Marcus in charcoal moved at the edge of her orbit, close enough to read hands, far enough to appease cameras. Madeline met them at the door with a press list and a smile that belonged to someone paid to predict storms. "Cameras left," she said under her breath. "Walk center. Mr. Kane, shadow only." They stepped into the tunnel of light. Vanessa's breath rode the sequence. 4 in, hold 4, 6 out. The hum of lenses became background music. Marcus tracked the edges. A courier in a museum vest slipped under the rope and thrust an envelope toward her. No lanyard, wrist too clean, the lens on his phone already waking. "Left," Marcus said into the mic, the single syllable altering his gait by an imperceptible degree. He turned, intercepting the phone with a forearm, catching Vanessa's elbow with his other hand as the crowd's weight tilted toward them. "Walk." They angled off Marble and into a service corridor that smelled faintly of paint and dust. The camera flash, too near, left a comet streak in her vision. Behind them, someone shouted, "Assault!" as if the word could do what security had failed to. Marcus put his back to a caged utility closet and set Vanessa in the wedge of his shoulders and the wall. Shield, shelter, not a trap. "Breathe," he said. "In 4, hold 4, out 6. His voice threaded calm through the adrenaline. "Are you hurt?" "I'm okay," she said, and was surprised to hear how true it sounded. "Security just clocked the fake vest," he reported. "Listening to the radio chatter, they're moving on him. We exit the south stair in 2. Her phone buzzed in sharp succession. "Madeline, where are you? Visual now." Her father. "Optics, Vanessa." "Legal. Statement forthcoming." She put the phone in her clutch like a wasp she refused to swat. They took the stair. 2 uniformed officers burst up at the halfway landing, palms out, procedural voices already in motion. "Ma'am, step aside. Sir, hands where we can see them." "He's my security," Vanessa snapped, stepping forward before she could calculate the cost. "He protected me." "We have a report he shoved a member of the press," the nearer officer said, eyes on Marcus's hands, not his face. "He blocked the lens an inch from my eyes," she said, heat finally cracking the ice. Marcus kept his gaze at the badge, not on her, and said low, "It's okay, let them clear it." They were held just long enough for a small crowd to gather on the landing, phones raised, the hum of narrative building itself in real time. Madeline arrived with a museum manager in tow, smile bloodless and useful. "Officers, Drake International will cooperate fully. Miss Drake, you'll ride with me. Mr. Kane, your firm will coordinate statements." "No," Vanessa said, the word ringing like a glass tapped with a knife. "He rides with me." Marcus met her eyes, and the decision was already made in his. "Take the car," he said quietly. "I'll follow once this is clean." She wanted to say, "Don't leave me alone with their story." He said, "I won't be the reason you lose footing," as if he'd heard it. He offered his hands for a brief pat-down like a man offering facts to gravity. "Go," he added softer. "Let me clean the board." In the black car, Vanessa watched him through tinted glass, while the scene behind her ossified into content. Headlines were born like snow. By the time she reached the penthouse, the photo had already calcified into a narrative. Security manhandles photog, heiress in panic. Her father left a voicemail that used the word optics twice and distance 3 times. Legal texted a draft. Overzealous security. Replace contractor. She set the phone down and pressed her palms to the cool edge of the terrace railing. His message buzzed 15 minutes later. "Cleared. Standing down tonight per PR request. I'll rotate off until they stabilize your optics. Nearby if you need urgent." Her fingers hovered over replies and found only a single word she did not send. "Don't." The apartment felt wrong without his orbit. Too bright, too curated, like a stage after the audience leaves. She crossed to the table where the laminated card lay. What's true? What's next? Who's with me? The last answer had a name now. She picked up her coat and went downstairs. He was across the street under the awning shadow. a man who had learned to take up less space than his integrity required. Cameras idled at the curb like sharks. She walked straight to him, heart steady, fear busy with more relevant work. "PR wants you gone," she said without preamble. "My father wants a cleaner narrative. Legal wants overzealous security. I want the truth." "The truth costs," he said. "So does lying," I answered. "You didn't assault anyone, you protected me. I'm done pretending my safety is a branding exercise." She held his gaze. "Professionally, I want you on my team. Personally?" She swallowed. "I don't want a life where doing the right thing means losing you." Something unguarded flickered through his control. "If I step back in, the noise won't stop." "Then let it be loud," she said. "We set lines. Clean work. Clear story. We don't erase what's real to make other people comfortable." He studied her face, the place where fear had surrendered to decision. "Say it plain," he murmured. "I choose you, Marcus." He breathed out, like releasing a perimeter he'd kept tight for too long. "Then he chooses you back." He didn't touch her. He didn't have to. Cameras clicked like sleet. Somewhere Madeline's phone lit up like a switchboard. "Tomorrow, we do this on our terms." "Deliberate," she agreed. They turned toward the doors together, parallel lines that, for the first time, meant the same path. The choice would not be quiet, but it would be theirs, from now.
The Drake Foundation's main lobby had been designed to look less like corporate marble and more like an invitation. Warm Edison bulbs hung beneath a vaulted glass ceiling, their amber glow softening the hard edges of winter. Velvet ropes penned the press into neat lines, while a curated arrangement of pine and white orchids flanked the podium. Everything was calculated to feel welcoming, even as security staff scanned every badge and bag. Vanessa Drake stepped from the black SUV into that warm-lit scene, her tailored ivory pantsuit sharp against the early evening chill. A silk blouse softened to the strong line of her shoulders, her blonde hair swept into a sleek twist. Her heels clicked across the polished stone with practiced precision. 10 feet back, per the old PR-imposed rule, Marcus Kane followed. He was in a charcoal suit tonight, the cut precise but never ostentatious, his broad frame carrying it like armor. The faint sheen of a silk tie caught the light as he scanned the periphery. No detail escaped his eyes. Not the angle of the cameras, not the positions of the Foundation's in-house security, not the subtle shift in posture from a photographer recognizing an opportunity. Madeline Shaw, their PR chief, intercepted them at the entrance. She was holding a tablet and wearing a smile meant for photographs, not for comfort. "Philanthropy headline, Vanessa, not security saga. Keep it clean." She gave her a single nod. She already knew the talking points. But tonight she intended to go off script. She stepped to the podium, setting her cards down. Cameras clicked in a polite volley. She began without glancing at the notes. "Tonight," she said, her voice carrying clear over the murmurs, "we launch a pilot program to bring trauma-informed safety training to teenagers across the city. We're going to teach breath, boundaries, exit strategies, skills that create calm where fear has lived too long." She let the pause breathe. "The curriculum was designed by someone who taught me those skills when I needed them most." A ripple of murmurs passed through the press line. She turned her head toward Marcus. "Marcus Kane, my security lead, and the architect of this program. Effective, principled, human." Her hand lifted, not for touch, but as an invitation. Marcus crossed the 10 feet between them without hesitation, without shrinking himself to fit anyone's comfort. Camera flashes lit the space like lightning. "Miss Drake," a voice called from the press pack, "are you confirming you're more than employer and employee?" Vanessa didn't flinch. "I'm confirming we tell the truth here. We work together. We stand together. And we won't disappear to make other people comfortable." On the edge of the crowd, the superintendent from her building lifted his chin in quiet salute. Near him, the housekeeper's teenage son from the elevator weeks ago clutched a program flyer like it was something valuable. When the remarks ended, her father was the first to approach Marcus. His handshake was firm, his words simple. "Thank you." Marcus accepted it without making it a victory.
Madeline exhaled, almost smiling. That landed better than my talking points. As the crowd thinned, Vanessa and Marcus stood side by side in the glow of the Edison bulbs. The old 10-foot gap between them was gone. It hadn't been erased. It had been claimed. The difference mattered. The next morning, the pilot class met for the first time in the Drake Foundation Annex. The space was a far cry from the penthouse. Scuffed wooden floors, folding chairs arranged in a wide circle, taped arrows pointing toward exits. A wall of windows led in the pale winter sun. Vanessa, in a soft navy sweater and dark jeans, clipped laminated name tags onto a folding table. Marcus moved among the cones and mats he had set up for drills, his shirt sleeves rolled to the forearms that had blocked more than one threat from reaching her. The teenagers trickled in, some curious, some skeptical, some looking like they'd been told to be here by someone they trusted. Marcus greeted each one with the same steady calm, learning names quickly. He began the session by standing in the circle with them. 4 in, he inhaled. Hold 4. 6 out. Ask yourself 3 questions. What's true? What's next? Who's with me? He pointed toward Vanessa without breaking rhythm. Answers are still me. And her. She smiled, not because a camera demanded it, but because it was true. The drills were simple but powerful, learning how to stand in a way that made you harder to push over, how to scan a room without looking like you were. Marcus corrected stances by mirroring, never touching unless invited. His voice was a steady metronome, confident without being commanding. By the end of the morning, the teenagers were laughing between exercises, challenging each other to remember the sequence faster. Henry Drake stood near the back of the room, hands clasped behind him. For most of the session, he stayed silent, watching his daughter in a role she had claimed for herself. When it ended, he approached Marcus first. Good work, he said simply. Then he turned to Vanessa, a rare smile softening the lines at his eyes. Good choice. They walked home together, deliberately avoiding the car service. The long way took them through a small park, where winter grass bent under frost and a few stubborn leaves clung to bare branches. You realize, Marcus said as they walked, you just made yourself harder to isolate. These kids are going to know your face. That's protection, too. I know. It feels lighter. They reached the penthouse terrace as the city began to glitter against the deepening blue of dusk. She leaned on the railing, the wind playing with loose strands of her hair. Marcus, as always, took the windward side without thought. So what does deliberate look like now? He counted it off like Lao's. Clean work, team rotation, no secrets, clear life, no hiding, no headlines deciding who we are. I keep your perimeter when it matters most. I keep building this program so it can protect people before someone like me is ever needed. She turned toward him. And why do I feel safe with you? His answer landed like both a promise and a plan. Because I'll stand here when it costs, and I won't drop what I hold. Her laugh was soft, the kind that came from relief rather than amusement. Her breath fogged in the cold. It still makes my heart race. Their fingers found each other. No flourish, no performance, just the quiet weight of connection, steady and unshakable. Below them, the city churned forward. Above, for the first time in a long time, Vanessa felt her story moving with her, instead of being dragged behind.
The weeks that followed tested their resolve in ways neither PR nor threat assessments could have forecast. The program launched in 3 boroughs, drawing praise from youth centers and side-eye from corporate allies who didn't like their heiress frontlining alongside her bodyguard. Vanessa stood in front of classrooms full of teenagers learning how to own their space, while Marcus trained her staff in awareness drills that looked more like life skills than combat. But the noise didn't vanish. A tabloid headline appeared, Drake heiress and her hands-on protector. The photo was harmless, her laughing at something Marcus said as they left a meeting, but the caption was not. Her father's legal counsel called within the hour. Madeline forwarded the link with 3 words, "This will snowball." Vanessa closed her laptop, walked to the window, and stared at the street. "They want to make us a spectacle," she told Marcus that night. "They can only use what they see," he replied. "We control the frame." "How?" "We show up the same way every time, professional, unflinching, clear about why we're in the same room. We don't feed them what they want." He paused.
and we don't hide from what's true. She knew the line was for her as much as for the press. One Friday night, returning from a fundraiser, they stepped out of the car into a wall of flashbulbs. Voices shouted her name, his name, questions twisted into hooks. Marcus's hand touched her back, light, anchoring, guiding her through the tide without breaking stride. Someone yelled, "Kane, smile for the camera!" and he didn't even blink. Inside the elevator, she exhaled. That was, he finished, noise. It's only dangerous if it changes what you do next. What she did next was keep going. Appearances, program work, public moments they refused to surrender. But one night the cost came close. They left a community center in Queens, and Marcus clocked a man leaning on a van across the street, watching too long. He positioned himself between Vanessa and the curb, eyes on the man's hands. When the guy stepped off the curb, his stance changed, barely but enough for Vanessa to feel it like a shift in weather. The man hesitated, then melted into the crowd. In the car, she said, "That was more than noise, wasn't it?" "It didn't get the chance to be," he said, "because you were there." He didn't answer. The silence lasted until they reached the penthouse. She turned to him before unlocking the door. "Do you ever wish you could just not be the wall all the time?" His eyes softened, but his voice stayed even. "The wall's the reason I'm here. Without it, I'm just another man with opinions. This way, I'm a man who can do something about what happens to you." She stepped closer. "That's not all you are to me." Something in his gaze shifted, wariness giving ground to something warmer, deeper. "And you're not just a detail on my roster," he said. They stood there, the city wind pushing cold between them, until she said, "So we keep doing it this way, together. Loud if it has to be. But ours." He nodded once, the agreement settling between them like a drawn line they'd both defend. Spring came early to the city that year. The program's first cohort graduated in a sunlit hall, families clapping, teens holding their laminated cards with the 3 questions printed in bold. Vanessa and Marcus stood together for photos, ignoring the whisper of lenses outside. When the speeches ended, a young girl in a jean jacket came up to Vanessa. "I used to walk with my head down," she said. "Now I don't. That's because of him." She pointed at Marcus. Vanessa's throat tightened. She glanced at him, but he was crouched to the girl's height, listening like she was the only person in the room. Later on the terrace, she told him, "That's why we keep going. That's why the noise doesn't win." He leaned on the railing beside her, the city glowing in the early dusk. "Exactly." She tilted her head toward him. "Why do I feel safe with you?" His answer was as certain as the day they met. "Because I'll stand here when it costs, and I won't drop what I hold." Her smile was small, sure. "Then hold on." And he did.